Hey everybody, it's Jillian. Good morning, happy Sunday. So, true to form, I'm still staying on task. Yeah, I keep on point with this because I have to stay in the conversation until I completely just glean out the thought process. And yes, it's Sunday. It is the day that people go to churches. It's the day people basically exemplify their belief systems. And it's great. There's Sunday schools. There's so many denominations out there. So many with different wording for the same thing. I would say that no matter what your belief system, if you believe in any kind of higher power, you understand that the world that we're in did not get created in a vacuum. Yes, I'm going to say yes, it's bioengineered, the world that you live in, and nothing wrong with that. It's just coming to terms with that is one of the most difficult things. The fact that our world is bioengineered. And why it is the first world is the first world. We have so much innovation, so much technology, so much advancements in just the human condition and understanding our power. And some don't understand their power within their own personal body, mind, and spirit. And so I have a theory that why it is that Greek mythology is not taught as Greek history. Because yes, it would conflict with a lot of religions out there. Because when you have so many offshoots of the same religion, when people know that there is a higher power, but they have their own notion on what that higher power is, you can't teach something in school because the whole separation of church and state, which I can understand because, why would you try to force someone to believe something that they're not going to want to believe, even if it's the same thing but different wording? And so the only way, I guess, our society and the authority, the powers that be, can teach us how we're able to understand logic and reasoning and math and English and then sociology, how people interact with each other, is if they say, okay, well, you'll learn about the human condition and potentially your powers as a human. The only way we're going to kind of get that within the framework of your life is to understand Greek mythology. Because it's not like we're learning all the different, see, I don't remember. I remember that we did talk about certain holidays in 5th grade class, like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. But it is not covered in an extensive way. It's not covered as if they're trying to convert anybody. It's covered as a way to honor those that believe that, and this is the diversity of our society. And so, but when you actually have a specific class on Greek mythology in your history class, there is something behind that. And that is the fact that, yes, you must learn where you came from, but in a way where it's like through allegory, or how they would want to pose actual history through allegory. Because that's a friendlier way to introduce something that really actually existed and happened many years back without offending those that are Catholic, Christian, I don't know, any of those other denominations, Muslim. And so I have no problem just saying what actually is so, but who's to say it's actually so? Because again, nobody thinks of these things in a vacuum. It's not like someone just made it up. It's an actual history. And so I would rather be the one to say it and have people think I'm crazy, because they already do anyways. Who thinks about indefinite life? Who says that cancer actually is evolution when people are dying from cancer? Well, how does that? When you're dying from cancer, how could it be evolution? Because when you have a body that can evolve and devolve, it's a thermodynamic. It's like when you're in a boat and there's a hole in the boat and you're on the water and you're steadily trying to bail the water out of the boat and you're trying to stay afloat, but water keeps coming in and you keep bailing the water. That's what cancer is people are trying to bail the water out of the boat to stay afloat, and they haven't figured out how to actually plug the hole in the boat. So the only way they can stay afloat is they keep bailing the water. Eventually that machine that's bailing the water is going to break down. That's kind of what's going on with humanity. Okay, that water, it helps you stay afloat, or you wouldn't be on the water, you'd be on land. But there's a reason why you're on the water, because you're trying to fish, you're trying to boat, you're trying to, experience a different experience. If you wanted to be on land, you'd be on land. But what goes on with the humans is that they are taking on water, and they're taking on water as life, and they're also bailing the water out and taking more water in and bailing it out. And then eventually the system breaks down because of that. Because if you just plug the hole, there wouldn't be excess water. You would still stay afloat, and you would enjoy your life on the water instead of always trying to bail the water out. And so I don't know if that's the most correct analogy, but that's what cancer is. That's what all the different diseases are. That's why I can talk about indefinite life, immortality, is because humans are constantly trying to bring in food and nutrients and energy that they're leaking on the back end. They haven't figured out how to actually plug the hole so they can retain their water, retain themselves being afloat in this world called life. And so, yeah, it doesn't win me popular reviews. I'm not the most loved in my community. Of course not. I'm not the most loved out there in the world. But at this point, I've always been that way. And most people that don't really understand where I'm coming from, they're not going to find any kind of way to relate to me at all, because when they're told by the medical system that cancer is horrible, autoimmune disorders are based upon your predispositions, but where do those predispositions come from? No one asks those questions. Oh, it's because of the GMO, and it's because of toxins and poisons, and the reptilians are trying to kill you, and all this. So there's always these stories that justify and rationalize why it is our body breaks down. But no one really says, okay, where's the point of origin of why it is that they have to turn to the medical holistic industry? And then you go into, then when you actually look at Greek mythology, it's actually Greek history. And then you look at spirituality, which most people don't even go, they go into spirituality in a very superficial sense based upon the state of their body. So if they're like, oh, everyone should descend. If those that don't ascend, what happens? And they go into this whole belief system about karma, which, yeah, okay, karma is or reincarnation. We're okay, well, when you don't ascend and you die on this earth, you come back again, which is true, assuming that they're going to allow the same amount of people to try it over, try it over again. But when you see the Georgia Guidestone saying instead of 7 billion to 500 million, that's 6,500,000,000 less chances for a spirit that never figured out here that dies. That's less chances for you to actually start over again and actually do it the right way. And so religions give people a rationalization that it's okay to pass away and to just cater to all of the extreme biochemical hormones that, yes, the gods did give us as a gift to be able to be a diverse society with innovation. Because imagine, like Zeus and Poseidon, which they were giants, okay? When you actually look at some of the movies that are out there, the Titans, I don't know if they were giants. I think the 12 Olympians were definitely giants. We've seen huge trees. Like my husband showed me on Facebook this morning, there's a huge tree that's 10 miles long that looked like it was chopped down, and all you could see were the tree rings. It's petrified, of course, because of time mineralizing that tree stump. I mean, I've been to the petrified forest. I've felt the wood that was petrified into stone. And so, yeah, they existed back then. The atmosphere is probably different back then. Why don't we have major giants here? Because they've been not only bred out of existence, but then, finally the gods are like, okay, we're done here. When you see some of the stories about a giant, like I've read stories about giants, and where a bunch of the small humans found a way to take down a giant with pulleys and ropes and using nails to pound in the ropes into the ground to hold the giant down. And so, yeah, so the baser level instincts of mankind that doesn't understand something different, they view a huge giant as like a Satan. They view things that fall from the sky that they learned in class as something demonic. And yeah, the gods, when you actually look at Greek mythology, there was gods of wine, there was gods of love, gods of war. I mean, when you really look at Greek mythology and all the different gods, the polytheistical point of view of religion, you realize that every single energy and biochemistry that you hold are components of what we started out as a modern human that's able to take in new information at the time, and then it becomes then just part of the landscape, as if it was just like you take it for granted. Just like people take their life for granted. They take their holidays for granted. They take their traditions for granted. Someone, wrote a story in the Bible, which is great. Yes, it is definitely an aspect of history based upon someone's influences. And that's their reality, but they don't even look deeper. I mean, I see people that do love the Bible. They someone pointed out to me, some of the Greek names, the Titans, Pleiades, which is some of the spirits they're the aliens from other planetary systems. But do I see a lot of the religious folk even turn to Greek mythology? Even use it as part of their platform to say, okay, let's unite all of the different religions and realize, and that's where the whole coexist comes from. Okay, coexistence is understanding that all the religions that are out there are based upon actually one huge event that happened for thousands of years that people have compartmentalized and made it their own little faction. And so when someone says maybe there is actually a connection between Christianity, Catholicism, obviously, Muslim, Allah, Confucius, Shintoism, all the religions out there are just people's perceptions of what stories were circulating, and then they go off into their little civilizations and teach them as if they were disconnected from the bigger picture. And so, since I'm not a popular person, and part of me is like, man, sometimes I wish I could be mainstream and wish I could just play that game and be so loved and be so accepted by everybody. But that would be not true to who I am and why I'm here. I know why I'm here, obviously. I'm here to understand why we're here. I'm here to understand why we have serial killers. I've asked that question a couple, 20, 30 years ago. Why do we have serial killers? Why do we have people believe the way they do? Why do people do what they do? Is this all there is? Is just going to work, going to school, playing with all of your pleasurable toys? Is that all there is? No, there's a lot more. When I was sitting in the middle of my room when I was a kid, because I was punished for something stupid for a long time, I would sit and look at my yellow blinds, look at the apple trees in the side yard where my room and my window were overlooking. And I'm like, is this all there is? I would be in class in high school, when I was in high school for a minute, looking at the hills on Deer Hill Road over there in Lafayette, California, going like, is this all there is? I would rather be out there on, on the mountain running around, enjoying nature, enjoying life. Why am I stuck in here in this classroom learning about business math? Because I was in a business math class at the time. Like I always knew, and that's why I always gravitated towards the different communities that was not like Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is a virtual reality. Silicon Valley is not the reality at all. The West Coast is a virtual reality. People are stuck in their bubbles of their virtual existence. Oh yeah, it's yuppie. You buy your cars, you buy your material goods, you have your big homes, you go on great trips. Okay, and then what happens? Then you what? You retire and then you pass away? And then you have people that are in middle America that are watching the movies based upon California, the two coasts, and the yuppies, those that have a lot of money, and they try to emulate them. But to no avail because they don't have the innovation. The people on the two coasts, access to resources, have the money to innovate their body and have access to other types of innovative toys and ideas. So they're at a different level of evolution. And then that's where you get the two-party system. And then you get all the offshoots of the religions that somehow rationalize your existence and where you might end up when you pass away. And that's been our reality. And then you have this virus. You have this virus that is now the equalizing force, of which I'm saying, okay, this virus actually does cause, yes, it causes growth. All viruses cause growth. It's a type of plug and play. Okay, antibodies are not just antagonistic, where they do a search and destroy or atrophy. They're also growth antibodies that people don't want to even look at it as a possibility. And so, yeah, I've been very, very smarmy, catty, mocking the last couple of days because I look at the medical industry as trying to suppress the strength of humanity, and those in the medical industry trying to atrophy the potential of humanity. And it pisses me off. I'm a strong person. When I see someone using the word narcissistic on someone, and I look at what it is, it's a personality disorder, a self-inflated importance. By whose standards? Yeah, there are imbalanced people, but if they're not breaking the law, then why the hell is that a problem? Why would you diagnose someone as a personality disorder? I can understand where a weak child who is raised by a very narcissistic parent could have a hard time because that kid's weak. They have predispositions. The parents who are narcissistic or very strong didn't know how to foster that strength in their kid. And so the kid is just withering under that kind of pressure and withering and in the shadow of their parents, of which then, yeah, they go to therapy and the therapist tells them, oh yeah, you have narcissistic parents. They were this, they were that. And so it helps justify and rationalize to the child that there's nothing wrong, which is nothing wrong with them, but they're going to stay in their little tiny ball of existence of accepting that there is no way out of their perception of the world. And so when they see someone that's very strong, it's going to remind them of their parents, or it's going to remind them of someone that they couldn't stand up to. And that's when then you have the different factions that go off into their respective places, always at war with each other. And so I don't imagine I'm going to get through to most people. I can barely get through to my own community. What makes me think I'm going to get through to strangers who've only read articles and people who are in the cancel culture because they can't handle another strong human being? And so that's why I say leave like anyone that has a clash with somebody is because you have the same personality. You're just as self-inflated with importance. You're, just as narcissistic, if that's what we can use. Let those people rule their kingdom. And so if you are a strong person, then go create your own strong community. There's no reason why you need to knock down and cancel another strong person. But that's the way our society is, because everybody wants to be king of the mountain. And so I've learned that. I see who kind of makes me bristle sometimes. Sometimes I do feel left out, that because someone can't handle my strength, that they're going to gravitate towards, my husband. My husband's a very well-liked human being. Am I very well-liked in my community? Not really. I feel it. I feel it. And I understand it because, yes, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to be targeted because of their association with me. And I understand that. And that's something that I process on a daily basis. That the conflict in me wants to go and just be like everybody else. But then that wouldn't be true to who I am. But that's always going to be a conflict for those that stand up for what they believe in, whether or not it actually aligns with the party line out there. And so I understand that what I say has ramifications. It has consequences. I'm going to piss off a lot of people who have a very entrenched belief system, of which, they're not going to feel inclined to feel like they can hang out with me or whatever. And I get it, because I don't even know how to relate to many, many people, because I don't do the same things that most people do out there. I'm awkward as hell in social situations. But hey, I'll play the game. It's difficult. It's difficult to be a very different thinking person, especially when I'm trying to write a book that is the antithesis of most of the thought processes out there. So it's Sunday, and Sunday is where people galvanize in their factions of belief systems, where they have their echo chambers, whether it's in their community, in their churches, within their group of friends, their large families. And here I am going like, okay, I have this, and sometimes I do struggle with like, is this really worth it? Is this really worth, should I just throw this all away and say, fuck it, I'm going to go and now assimilate to everyone else? No. But I'm human. That's the human part of me of wanting to assimilate. And then the divine part of me says, no, there's no point. You've already came this far, Jillian. You have to stay the course, regardless of how people think of you. You have to say what you got to say, because let me tell you, I'm probably the only one that can really say some of this stuff, because at this point, I don't care if I'm loved or hated, but part of me wants to be loved, but other part of me is like, you know what? It doesn't even matter at this point, because those that really don't understand me, they're not going to be around for the next, they're going to be gone at some point. And then you have a new group of people that are going to then look at you and be like, wow, you've been here since 1974. Where's the aging process? You were on Dr. Phil back in 2018, and now it's like 2050, and you look amazing. And that's for all of you that are doing the J-Juice, or say that you're doing the J-Juice. At some point, when you're doing the J-Juice and you reverse the aging process, your friends and family are going to be like, whoa, what the heck? Your sons and your daughters are going to be like, wow, mom and dad, if they're doing the J-Juice, we're basically on the same level. We look similar. We act similar. We don't look like there's any kind of generational differences. That's what I'm shooting for all of you that say that you're on the J-Juice, is that when your kids grow up, you're going to look like your brother and sister. You're not going to look like that your mom and dad, or sons and daughters and granddaughters. Which means that then you won't be dealing with cancer, disease, chronic illness. And so, yeah, this is the transition from one thought process to another, just like the transition from the old world before the COVID to this new world. It is awkward. It is not easy. You're going to be tested. You're going to be distracted by those that are really not taking things as serious as you are around certain areas. And you still have to keep just your eyes on the prize. And that's why I say those of you that are on the J-Juice, keep track of those on the J-Juice, because they're going to be the people that understand you the most. They're going to be the ones that have known your journey, that have saw through the struggles that you went through, trying to transition from an old world to a new world, an old thought process to a new thought process. Because I'm telling you, if I was just in this for the fame and the fortune, there is no fame, really. It's no notoriety. There's definitely no fortune, because that's not the point of Jilly Juice. No, you're not going to be loved if you're going to talk about Jilly Juice and feeling the healing. People are going to find a way to avoid talking to you about the J-Juice. They're not going to say, attaboy, good job. you're feeling pain, they're going to think you're freaking crazy. And that takes a strong person to be able to withstand that, especially with all of our distractions and, our wanting to be loved and accepted by our friends and family. And so sometimes someone's going to just, not even do the JJs because they don't want to risk their social position within their community. And I understand that too. But I want to be really real with you on my own struggles. But I've always been a bit of a black sheep, and I always will be, because I live in a world of 7 billion people who believe they should die, who are okay with contracting cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and when they do contract it, then they'll go get all of their therapies that will basically just suppress their evolution. And then when they're in remission and they've plateaued, they think they've beat cancer. I'm sorry, but the body is going to want to live. The body is going to want to grow. You'll just watch your body fall apart bit by bit, piece by piece, over time. Piece by piece, over time. And then your friends and family are like, yeah, that's what's to be expected. They feel sorry for you. They give you sympathy. They find ways to make you feel better. Those that have issues, they get a lot of love for their friends and family. You know why? Because it's easy to give sympathy to somebody than to be strong with somebody. It's easy to be the savior of somebody and be like, oh, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. I'm so sorry. People are attracted to pain and they want to be that for that person. And so when someone like me who's pretty strong, who doesn't really deal with, who doesn't have cancer, disease, chronic illness, or have any kind of major issues, and I speak in a very strong way, they can't relate to that because they want to be that savior. And so, yeah, so it's one of those that I just do, okay, whatever. So I just want to give you as an understanding, a perspective of a person on a J juice in a world that still is very archaic, very, very human, that doesn't understand their divine potential, nor want to even explore it. And that, yes, when your purview is to only distract yourself when you can in between your priorities, and then I don't take part in that, and I don't really condemn it, but I say, isn't there more to life than being that distracted, trying to suppress your evolution, and then people think you're being judgmental. Oh, I understand. I know it. And so it's one of the things, but that's how I ended up in Ohio, because I wanted to be in Ohio. But then I didn't really fit in California either, because they're just like, well, you don't have a degree. You're not one of those ornamental Orientals that really care about wearing the right clothes and all the different material possessions and whatever it is that is accepted over there on the West Coast. And I come here and, yeah, who the hell are you? Where does Jillian fit in? She doesn't fit in anywhere because she's a little bit different than basically most of the world. So I get that. It's something that I will come to terms with. And part of me, when I do feel like feeling hurt, because I wish that there is, that I could be like that normal person. It's for like a minute and then it's gone. Because if anything, that's just a reminder of where I don't want to be. Because that hurt is the suffering because you feel that you can't measure up to the people around you. But do you really want to measure up to the people around you who are dying with predispositions, who don't know when they're really going to pass because they have no control over their life? And so then I have to just keep with what I'm doing and stay the course and finish what I started. And so those of you that are struggling with how it is that you're going to do J-Juice in your community with people who don't want you to do J-Juice, I still struggle too. And so if I can do it and stay with it and deal with, yes, the headaches, the waterfalls, the skin conditions, potential scares of what you would think that you would have to go to the hospital for. If I can do that and deal with all of that stuff and still have to deal with my community who thinks I'm fucking insane, who loves my husband, but they tolerate me, that's how I feel a lot of ways. Am I going out of my way to I go out of my way to give people the J juice. I go out of my way to drop seeds. That's my way of loving people. No, I don't go in and babysit a kid. No, I don't go in and go bake a cake for somebody. I mean, I could. I have made food for people. But I'm not one of those that needs to go and buy things to make myself loved by people. I try to give people the gift of life. But if they don't want it, then there's what else do I give? Material stuff? That's what they do. That's what people do that don't know how to give anything else, is they go and find material things and they go and give. And they say that's love. Or that's acceptance. And so redefining respect for people and love and honor your friends and family is that you see more potential than they even see you in themselves. You're willing to say the hard things that their friends and family would never say because they don't want to risk the wrath of triggering. So they would rather just give them what they want to hear and say what they want to hear than say, hey, I don't know, maybe this or maybe that. So I've been the gift of one that says the hard things, of which doesn't elicit a lot of love or respect. And yeah, I come off like a fucking bitch sometimes, like a narcissistic. But either way, it's going to make you think. So either you like me a lot, or you tolerate me, or you really just don't like me at all. Of which then you shouldn't be following me. But I just wanted to be honest with you on my own struggles. Today's my husband's birthday. And I think it's awesome that he's still doing what he loves to do, fishing. We hung out yesterday. It was nice. No, we don't go and throw parties for each other. He's not one to celebrate his birthday. I'm not one to do that because I think there's a lot more that I appreciate than having to go and do that. And, you know, it's another birthday for him. It's another birthday for me back on February 5th. In the scheme of things, are birthdays really going to be necessary? They're only necessary, really, birthdays and celebrations, when somebody has a limited lifespan. And that's probably why the JWs don't like the holidays. So I understand the Jehovah's Witnesses' point of view as far as holidays and birthdays. Why celebrate something that, why? So I think it's kind of cool that you can keep track of how long you've been on this earth. And it's great for the J-Juice world that, I was born in 1974 and I feel and look amazing. Okay, for someone that's 47, that's going to be 50 in a couple years. I don't even feel like I look like I'm in almost my 50s. Okay? And so that's what I want you guys, is that you don't feel your age of what you're supposed to feel. That when you do the J-Juice, you're going to actually see distinct reversals in your aging process, in your skin, in the way you think. And you give that gift to your friends and family if you're able to handle them looking at you kind of weird. But I didn't use the word immortality a couple years ago, or even, prior to just recently, because that has a lot of baggage. I couldn't substantiate immortality, to use that word immortality. I used the word indefinitely until I could really find the connection to immortality. And then that's when I was able to then link it to the Greek gods, which now I understand where John Oakes is coming from. So I appreciate you, John Oakes. You are a man way beyond your time. Many of you are way beyond your time. Some of you just let me know you're way beyond your time. Some of you keep that to yourself. Okay, fine. But I appreciate the interaction. Because yes, immortality is not something that's mythological. Once I figured out what the medical holistic industry actually does and the Hippocratic Oath, and their view on pain and cancer. Cancer is just growth. But yes, on a body that can't handle that action potential, it will destroy them. So what if you plugged the holes and retained your energy? It wouldn't be cancer. It would just be evolution. But could I say that to somebody who doesn't want to feel pain? Hell no. So when I say cancer's evolution, and someone has just gotten all their radiation and all their chemotherapy and have been suffering and taken out organs, they're going to feel so fucking offended that they don't even want to deal with you. Or they do. It's more like a tolerance, if that. But somebody's got to be the one to say the hard stuff, regardless of how it's being received. And so then you become really good at small talk. Stuff that doesn't really mean too much, that doesn't really have any substance. And I'm not good at small talk, but I learned to play the game. Because that's the world that I live in. No one wants to talk about the deep issues because it's easier to just do the small talk. So you're going to find that during this transition, it's going to be awkward, especially when you finally do take on the JJs. And you actually feel your symptoms. This is not a detox. This is not a trendy thing. This is not a holistic remedy. This is more than just a lifestyle. This is more than a belief system. This is your humanity paired with divinity that you don't even realize you have because you allowed the medical industry and the holistic industry to suppress your potential. And then you allowed your friends and family and your parents and the authority to say that you were only good for this specific job or for this specific thing. And so, yeah, we have a lot of parents out there that have really just squelch the potential in their kids. Because the kids have predispositions based upon what was given to them by the parents, and the parents are not going to give them the opportunity of J-juice. And if they do, they're not going to do it right because they're not that committed. And so the poor kid's going to suffer. And you don't know when the predispositions are going to kick in and cause irreparable harm. And then you have these viruses that are going to do a number on the community as well as your kids. And that's also a hard thing to say out there to those that have children. Who wants to hear the reality of really what's coming down the line that could actually accelerate? We're not going to have the luxury to have the diagnoses. Stronger people will have the luxury to have a diagnosis, but weak people will not have that luxury. And so when something happens, guess what? They're going to be like, oh, well, that was his time. Or they're going to blame it on the medical system. Finally, they wake up and realize that, okay. Or they're going to be like, oh, well, it's this person's fault, that person's fault. So at this point, I don't do any babysitting. I don't watch kids. I used to be a nanny. I don't do any of that. Because when you're watching someone else's kid and something happens because something out of your control, guess who they're going to blame? They're going to blame the person that was watching them. And so that's also why, it's very, dangerous for those out there that watch other people's kids. Because, you just don't know what's going to happen nowadays. And so really, I know they're going to be like, well, they can see it. Obviously, it's not the person that did anything, but still, when there's so much action potential out there and activity and the viruses and the mass therapeutics, and now, the evolution, the de-evolution is accelerating, you don't know what is going to happen under your charge. So I just mitigate risk. People say, oh, you're fearful of this, you're fearful of that. No, I'm not fearful of nothing. I mitigate the risk. I was in an insurance field. Insurance field, you mitigate risk. If you're not mitigating risk, then guess what? Your premiums are going to be high, and then you'll potentially be a statistic. I told Jason, don't drive next to this freaking semi that has all this gas right next to, just get past him or whatever. He's like, why are you so afraid? It's not that I'm afraid. I'm just mitigating risk. Tires blow out, shit happens, things happen. Why would you drive alongside any kind of large vehicle on a road where there's so much room between. So I look at what potentially could happen and I'm like, do I want to put myself in that position? And so, yeah, so then you're like, people are like, well, then I don't know. I just one of those things that's just, but even before the insurance world, I was always like that. I was always like, oh my God, that's dangerous. Oh my God, you shouldn't do that. Oh my God, I'm never going to do that kind of drug. Well, there's a reason why. Do I really want to risk being addicted or being, destroyed by one dose? That's why I don't play with ayahuasca and I don't play with any illicit, aggressive psychedelics. Do I really need to play with my hormones to see another side? No. I love my reality. It's difficult sometimes. Yeah, I'm human. I suffer sometimes. But then I get over it. It's short-lived. That's the beauty of J juice, is that what could trigger someone to loop for a while and then start arguments and start wars, you get over that quickly and you realize that's just a short-lived little pain tinge of something that you wish you could have, but really, do you really, really want it? And then you move forward. But some people will take whatever and I used to do just something would trigger me and it would be an argument. It would be something like a huge World War III because it bring up everything else that I had issues with. But no, I could feel pain, feel a tinge of, jealousy or something, feelings of inadequacy, and then it disappears. That feeling is gone. It's not resonating, it's not staying, it's not looping. And so indefinite life is the fact that you can handle all the things that make you feel bad or make you feel inadequate or make you feel like not loved or not really cared for. And it would just be a minute, and then you would find the areas that really appreciate you. Find the areas that you can improve upon. That's indefinite life, where you can handle the changes of the world. And that's why the gods didn't give that to humanity, because they couldn't handle the changes. People be destroyed. So, hey, give them 120 years, if that, and we'll extract the innovation out of them, and they're happy for it. Yeah, it's great. Give them a few enemies so they could feel justified in blaming someone for their situation. And they're all happy. But then, then when you have everybody at war because their bodies are declining so rapidly, and they blame everything in their community, they blame the genetically modified, they blame the skies, they blame the government, they blame their neighbors, they blame different races, then it becomes so chaotic that you have to do a reset because you get tired of fighting the wars. You get tired of having to build another agency to deal with another predisposition in our society that now is finally glitching out of control. So yeah, I understand why the reset. I'm fine with it. I have no issue with Bill Gates. I have no issue with the New World Order. I have no issue with Klaus Schwab. I hope to give people some seed of possibility that they don't have to fall into that line of thought or that belief systems anymore, that maybe there's something else that's offered. This isn't all there is. I wish someone told that to me a long time ago when I looked outside, when I was punished for being dumb, whatever. This isn't all there is, Jillian. There's a lot more. But I would never know that until I've gone through all of the bullshit that I went through. That there's so much more. You just have to hold out and wait and deal with your predispositions, your physical issues first, before you get to the expansion of your brain. And yeah, if you can handle your physical symptoms, you can handle then who you actually truly are and where you came from. And it's not something that your preacher can tell you who is on his way out the door, or your parents who are aging and degrading. It's something that you're going to have to find within yourself once you let go of all those preconceived notions of what life is and what the gods are and what religion and science and politics are. It's all distraction. So anyways, I'm going to go do my thing, write some stuff, drink some coffee, and I feel good. But just so you know, I suffer too, but I don't suffer to the extent of what most people suffer. I still live in a world that doesn't understand jelly juice, nor will they ever. But they still got to deal with me, and I deal with them, and it is what it is. But I recognize things for what they are. I don't always love it. I try to be the best that I can be. What I say on Facebook does bite me in the ass a lot of ways, but that's my own choice. Everything you say and do has ramifications. So it is what it is. I will deal with it. And I would rather be the one to say the hard stuff. And even people hate me on their way out the door, that's fine. They tolerate me on the way out the door, that's fine. We all want to be loved by everybody, but that's not a reality. So just understand that that is the world that you live in with 7 billion people. That's not always going to happen. Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to respect you. Not everyone's going to understand you. And if you're living for that, where everyone loves you, everyone understands you, and everyone thinks that you're wonderful all the time, then who are you assimilating to? You're basically giving them what they want to hear. You're not being true to yourself. At some point, you're going to have to take a stand for your family, and take a stand for yourself, and take a stand for your community. Stop trying to be popular, because that's obviously not giving people enough. It's not really winning you any good reviews in the long run. Yeah, you'll go to your grave with everyone loving you, 50,000 people at your funeral, and then they go off on their merry way and life moves on, and you're floating around the universe. Maybe they make a plaque for you. Okay, great. A statue that's being torn down years later when that thought process isn't there anymore. Statues and legacies don't last too long in a society that's changing. So stay alive, be the change, don't be a legacy, stop trying to be popular, and say the hard things. Your kids and you, your husbands and your wives will appreciate it. And if they don't, they were never meant to. And then find your tribe. Find the people that understand you the most, even if they're miles away. But at least you guys are the seeds in your community. Eventually it will germinate over time. But you have to start somewhere, right? You can't just jump into it. You have to actually be the example, as hard as it is. All right, bye.